What's always called the most wonderful time of the year, but when you're in the grief process, this is not an easy time of the year. And joining us today with Interim Healthcare and Hospice, we've got Pastor Gloriann Geib in to tell us more about how to maybe deal with some of our grief. So thanks for joining us today.
My privilege.
Okay, so we talk about how we're supposed to be so happy and it's a joyful season, but it might not be always happy for everyone. And should we feel bad about that?
No, we always have to claim our emotions. We should never feel bad. So many times we just assume that everyone's going to have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday when many people are grieving and are really having a tough time. It's really just that anniversary time for many people where they're just loathing the idea of it coming around that calendar day.
Yeah. Tradition sometimes that can trigger it. I mean, like you said, just the holidays, but traditions change when you have the loss of someone.
Absolutely. And people ask me often, should we do the same thing as we did last year? It's not going to be the same. And I said, absolutely, it's not going to be the same. You need to validate that that person is gone. Maybe you can recollect and bring his or her traditions to the table, so to speak, and remember that individual through these times. Absolutely.
Right. And it's sometimes the first of everything, but grief can last longer. I mean, sure, the first year might be tough, but you just continue to grieve. It's a process.
Oh, absolutely. I always say that grief is like a plate of spaghetti and you're trying to get to the end of it noodle by noodle. And it's so hard. There's no perfect way to do it. There's no right timeline. Many people say, oh, well, time will make it better. Well, time doesn't necessarily make it better. Every day you still miss that loved one. You still are remembering. And because they're so etched in your heart, every day's occurrences remind you that they're not here. Absolutely.
Are there any tips that you can give people, you mentioned bring up memories and things. Are there ways to maybe get through the holiday that make it a little bit easier?
Yes, first of all, be very adamant and validate and be realistic that that person is no longer with you. But, share their favorite song, their favorite stories, their favorite food, tell the jokes, cry together, allow the emotions to be free and healing, so to speak. I think when we try to repress and suppress and act like everything's fine and great, and that's worse. It's harder for the individual, and it doesn't help healing at all. And Holly, as you said, there is no timeline for grief. It's everyone does their own thing, and as long as you're remaining healthy and you don't want to harm yourself or others, you're moving on the right path.
Yeah, when is there a point where you maybe find you can't really deal with it? When's there a point where you might need some counseling or some support groups or something like that?
Well, that comes really different timing with everyone. Many times just after the funeral and once the loved ones are getting embedded in all that financial paperwork and all that, and pretty soon friends and families think, oh, deal with it, get over it, they're on with it. So in my professional opinion, it seems like it comes somewhere between the 6-week and 3-month mark that people are really having a hard time. And this past 20 months with COVID, it was horrible, because these people were alone. I mean, alone, and they shouldn't be. We're made to be in companionship. We're made to gather and be in fellowship. And these folks are trying to deal with the loss of a significant loved one all alone. And maybe they didn't even get to sit with them or be with them at, the end of their death. And how devastating. So we see a lot more need for counseling with these folks. And now they're just trying to come out, and get a little more help because we feel it's a little more safe. But, unfortunately, they did a lot of grieving and had a lot of severe depression all on their own. So as far as a certain time frame, hopefully someone's around that can see that they need help, that notice that they need help, or maybe the individual is strong enough to say, hey, I can't do this on my own. I need some help.
Grief during the holiday season, it can be difficult. Thank you very much for sharing with us today.
My privilege. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Don't go away. New Edition continues in a moment.